Welcome to Modern Mystic Messages. I'm Teresa, and thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on the video. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. In any event, soul family, I'm so happy that you're here. I just had one of those moments where I had to stop and laugh at myself, family, because I came out here and sat down and realized I had forgot my mic, went back in, came back out, realized I didn't have my earrings in, came back out, and then forgot what I wanted to talk about today. And then I really had to laugh when I remembered it because that's exactly what I want to talk about today. I um I was watching something in the short reels this morning, or it came up in the reels, and it was a channel that I'm not normally subscribed to, and so I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was talking about um some of the neurodivergences actually being a gift or being a sign of connection, most specifically ADHD. Now, I know a lot of people have worn that label, a lot of more of us go undiagnosed and whatnot, but the medical community wants to quickly medicate. And what he was saying, and it really resonated within my spirit because I understand and agree with what he's saying, um, that truthfully, ADHD is not a disorder. It just basically means that you are more connected or more easily connected to the higher realms than the average bear. Like generally, the reason so many thoughts enter and scatter and enter and scatter because you're connected through the other side of the veil. Most of our thoughts we do not think, and most people don't understand that. They want to take credit for all of the thoughts that they make, and nothing is outside of ourselves, and it's all just us, us, us. That's one way to look at it, but that has not been my experience. As my clairs kicked in, like I said, in 2007, I was sitting in a very still place. And to be honest with y'all, I'll set the stage. At the time, I was dating a gentleman who was Seventh day Adventist. I had left secular religions. And mind you, I was raised super religious. So when I stepped away, it was, I thought I was going to find my footing within another sect of Christianity other than what I had been raised in. So I was just kind of in that interim. I still had a lot of respect, and I still have respect for religions. I just don't put as much store in them now because I understand what it is, but I don't hold any fault to the lay people, the congregants. My ire, if you will, is in the powers that were, the hierarchy, the eons, the powers and principalities. But in any event, 2007, I was talking to this guy who was Seventh day Adventist, and he was like, for real, one, didn't eat meat, didn't want any of those things, and blah, blah, blah. And it just so happened this one weekend, he was having some kind of a special meeting. I wouldn't really call it a revival, but it was some kind of special meeting they were having. So I went to the special meeting. Now, mind you, my background was as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So they pray at the beginning of the service, and towards the end, they got the little song and intermission or what have you in the middle there. But it's not up and down all day. So I was flipping my lid because it seemed like every 5 minutes, these people were down on the floor on this hard tile floor, up and down on their knees praying. I mean, literally like 10, 15 times during this meeting, and I got bad knees. I'm a big girl with bad knees, people. So I was like, for real? Do we really have to do all that? I think God will understand, I'm getting upset, so I'm starting to tune out. And again, I didn't know I was ADHD at this point in time. I just know that I've always had an eclectic taste for learning. So it's like I get really, really focused on something, and then I kind of chew all the flavor out of it, and then I'm on to the next thing. Then I chew all the juice out of it, and I'm on to the next thing. So I used to say I have a wealth of knowledge about a whole lot of random inconsequential trivia. I didn't know that it's not inconsequential because it didn't come into play until much later, but this was my life. So I'm sitting there, and they in and out and in and out, up and down on the floor, and the guy was talking about whatever he was talking about. And all of a sudden, I kind of zoned out and I heard a couple things. I heard that I would need to learn another language. I didn't know which language, but it was that I would need to learn to speak another language and that I would be moving to Africa. I'm like, oh, I didn't even want to believe any of that at this time. And well, I had a girlfriend of mine. She was interested in like starting to do mission work and that kind of stuff. So we put our heads together. And what she wanted to do was go and do like an orphanage situation. Because at the time, AIDS was still really a big thing in HIV. So we really thought that we were going to be going over there to do something as far as orphanages and or working with children who were displaced because either they had HIV or had lost their parents to HIV. And we were like, okay, well, we got our own stuff going on. When spirit opens the door for that, then that's what we'll do. And I just tucked it aside for another day and went on about my business. But that was the first time that I know for a fact that I had a thought that I personally did not think. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was mad because I was getting up and down on the floor. I ain't had no idea about learning another language, going to Africa, or none of the rest of that. Nothing. But that thought came in. And then the following year, by then I had moved to Virginia. I was working at Shields Tavern in Williamsburg, and that's such another weird story because that place was haunted as hell. Okay, I had very limited interactions, but I did have a couple of incidents where I know there were some non-corporeal entities messing with me, but it wasn't severe like other people had seen people in colonial costumes. No, it wasn't like that. But anyway, when I got to Virginia one night about 1:30 in the morning, and I remember the time so well, even though it happened in 2008, because the messages that came through for me were so rapid fire and so clear that I couldn't mistake it. It was like four messages came in back to back while I'm literally sitting on the toilet at 1:30 in the morning. Woke up to pee, and as I'm sitting there in this kind of zoned out state, it's like four thoughts just were pushed into my head. Now, one of the thoughts was for one of my coworkers, and it bothers me to this day. I can't remember that lady's name. That's how close we were not, okay? I didn't know her. We didn't pal around. We were civil to each other because we were coworkers, but we, in no ways, because we have been called friends. We never exchanged phone numbers, none of the rest of that. And she was fairly new to the tavern. She was just there, and she worked in a whole different floor than I did because she liked it doing the stairs and blah blah blah. I knew that she had a military background, but that's all I knew about her was her name and the fact that she liked working on the third floor when none of the other waitresses, servers really did, and she had a military background. But that night, I heard very clearly that I needed to tell her that she needed to go to the doctor immediately. I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know what that's about, but okay. The second thought that came in was a number, and I'm not sure. I still have some doubt. I think it may have had a dual meaning or not because the third thought that came in behind it was tied to someone that I was seeing by this time, and it was to do with a lawsuit that they had. And I thought that the number that I heard had something to do with their settlement, but the message that I heard in any event was if he did not settle with the next settlement offer that they made, that it would all go away and he wouldn't get anything. And then the fourth message that came through, and I still don't know if how this one is going to play out to this day, it was that I would be blessed with another child. And I wasn't looking to have another child, mind you. I'm 40 years old at this point. And yeah, it's by 2008. That was the year I turned 40. I had my tubes tied. I've had all my kids. I wasn't in any serious dating scenario that I immediately foresaw leading to marriage or anything. And I had my tubes tied because of what I had gone through with my ex. I knew I didn't want to raise any more children well, I didn't want to raise any more children with the kind of relationships I had been attracting to myself at that time. Let's put it that way. So, anyway, I heard those messages. I went the following day. I was obedient. I didn't understand the message, but I went and I relayed the message to my coworker, and she kind of took it and whatever, whatever. But she went. I didn't see her no more for like a week. There may be a saw that comes up here, but I'm right here. I think we'll be able to hear over it. If not, I'll pause the video and we'll come back in. My neighbors are doing some reno work, so they got to get their thing done too. But yeah, I gave her the message. She left work that day. I did not see her anymore for almost 2 weeks. When she came back to work, she hugged me so tight I thought she was going to crack a rib. And she was like, I don't know how you knew. And then she stopped herself. She said, well, no, I do know how you know, and thank you. She was a Desert Storm vet that had shrapnel in her head. And the doctor said that shrapnel was on the move. If she had laid down and gone to sleep that night, she probably would never have woken up. So they put her in they admitted her to the hospital, and it was because it was now moving. It had been inoperable before, but now they were able to operate on it, and she made a full recovery, and she was absolutely fine. The second message, well, messages 2 and 3, I hope this still picks up, and if not, I'll re-record it, not a worry. But um, messages 2 and 3, the number and the lawsuit information, I relayed that to the party that it needed to go to. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but truthfully, he was an energy vampire that was put in my path to teach me some serious karmic lessons. But that's neither here nor there. He second guessed my spiritual gifts for years because he was so holy, and he was so, one of those that wear the big Jesus piece, the cross, and then he's so spiritual, and maybe one day I'll catch up to where he is spiritually and all of that. So he chose to ignore my message, and guess what? The hospital that he was suing, their legal team went back into his records, found a loophole. He got nothing. He lost, according to him. Now, again, I didn't see any of this paperwork, but if his story is to be believed, he lost $238 million because he did not listen to the message the Spirit had told me to give him. Now, as far as the thing with the other child, I don't know how that's going to play out. I kind of sort of do, but I can't talk about it till it actually happens. If it does, fine. If it doesn't, fine. There's a couple different ways that could play because my boyfriend does have children that are still minor children. So it could be that way that I'm blessed with another child. But guess what? He also got a mama in Africa that don't speak a word of English. So eventually I am going to be moving to Africa. Like I said, when this play, well, probably within the next year, year and a half, and I will need to learn another language. So I came to understand our thoughts are not always our own. And with the whole ADHD thing, I firmly believe that a lot of that is information. Because how many times it looks like to the outside world that people with ADHD are just scatterbrained and they can't stay focused and they don't know what's going on. But how many times have them stopping one project and starting another prevented them from being in an accident, stopped them from getting robbed? It brought something to their attention that they really needed to see, saved them some money somewhere else, while it put them in a place or a position to be of a great benefit to someone else. It's not always the curse that people make it out to be. It just really isn't. And I started seeing that years ago when I started like really looking at this whole spiritual thing. When you consider, they talk about the star seeds coming into the planet in 2011-ish or so, 12-ish, I met up with my first mentor, and he taught me how to cleanse my aura and stuff. And he was the type of person, he didn't tell me a lot of stuff. If I asked a question, he would bring me a book or recommend a book. And once I finished reading it, then we could talk about it if we needed to. But he wasn't preaching at me. He just kind of pointed me in the direction of some places to get my information. But when I started trying to, at the time I had a teenage daughter that I was trying to get some answers or help with. And in trying to help her, I was trying to figure out maybe she was indigo or rainbow or what, because I had just started hearing those kinds of terms. And when I started really looking into it, I realized that I was a star seed. I didn't know what kind or anything. As I saw it at the time, I thought that I'm just to be an energy conduit, like put down roots, so to speak, and hold energy in the grid. That's all I thought that I was here for, to give birth to four of the coolest people on the planet and to hold down my little spot in the energy grid. And I was content with that. But the more I started learning about star seeds in later years, I learned about the waves of star seeds coming in. And the one thing that I seriously paid attention to and noticed was how each wave of starseed came in brought exponentially more autistic children onto the planet. Now, the conspiracy theorists want to blame it all on vaccines. Honestly, obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm not a scientist. I'm not anything. This right here is just clearly me speculating based on the things that I've read and observed and what spirit has kind of shown me in my head. But children that are autistic are not necessarily, it's not necessarily caused by the vaccines. They react and kind of shut down more in reaction to the vaccines, but they would be autistic to some degree whether they ever had the vaccines or not, because um the it's not a disability as people think. It's another layer of beingness. Those children, I started noticing the evolution in children back with mine. My oldest child basically came here cable ready. Now they coming here internet ready, basically. Children, they're talking at 6 months, getting up and walking at 7 months, and all of that. And people, old folks say, "Oh, they're getting out the way for the next one," but you're seeing all kinds of savant type children coming onto the planet now. Those are starseed beings. They are born already basically 4D and 5D ready, if you will. And I believe the ones that are what we would call um, like highly autistic to the point that they're nonverbal. Yeah, the vaccines probably do mess with them, because you think about it, they get like 3 times more vaccines than we got when I was a kid, or even when my oldest was coming up. They have no idea what that number of vaccines are doing, but it's not just the vaccines. Especially in America or most of the Western world, we've been on a steady program of sugar and ultra processed foods and genetically modified foods and ridiculous amounts of chemical exposure in our water, clothes, cleaning supplies, and in our food. And those high level 4D, 5D beings, it does mess with their avatars. However, whether they're verbal or whether they aren't, it does not affect their energy signatures whatsoever. And I really believe that the really, really highly autistic, nonverbal children are here to provide an energy signature. There's another wave of star seeds that's supposed to be coming, and I firmly believe in that final wave. They say around 2036, between 2036 and 2050 is the time when those who are trying to figure out the end and Nibiru coming back and whatever, whether we firmly ensconced into the age of Aquarius and those types of things, I believe that's when those really highly, highly autistic children are going to be absolutely essential to the energy of this planet. They will hold the Christ consciousness grid when all hell breaks loose, as we see it's on the way to happening right now. Do you really think moving from one age into another zodiacal age is an easy proposition? No, it's not. It takes about 75 to 150 years to leave the age of Pisces fully and become into the age of Aquarius, and it's a bumpy, bumpy ride. Those systems, those powers that be, they don't give up their seat easily. And we've already seen now, some want to believe it and some don't, but go read Revelation and see if that doesn't sound like us. We understand it's a battle, but I think most of humanity has misunderstood what that battle is about. We're reading the the Lost Book of Enki here, and we'll continue on with the Earth Chronicles series. But now that I'm reading that book and then looking at Revelation alongside it, the battle at Armageddon is not an isolated war. It's the final skirmish in the Anunnaki Wars. Read it. Because they talk about taking down the one that they've been bucking against ever since the third tablet. We already saw how Enlil, Yahweh, Satan of Eden, has been acting up and showing his behind ever since way back then when they was writing about it 300,000 years ago, to the point that they sick of him too. The book of Revelation describes the death of a god. And if we understand that, and like I said, holding that energy grid will be essential so that folks do actually survive it. But anyway, I'm rambling too far because I just wanted to mention that the whole ADHD thing, because one of the ladies in the commentary had said something. She said ADHD equals attention tuned to higher dimensions. And I firmly believe that. So if you, whether you're diagnosed, not diagnosed, have children that are diagnosed or not diagnosed, whether you're medicated or choose not to medicate it, please understand that your ADHD is not necessarily a handicap. It simply means that you are attuned to higher dimensions. That's it. That's all I have for this moment. We'll get into some other stuff in a few. I love you so much, family. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I will talk to you later. Peace and blessings to you. Namaste.